Welcome to People Love Process. Hopefully you were able to watch the short invite video for this, our second creative challenge, which was to create a theme sticker design. The theme, of course, could be whatever you wanted, so I hope you had fun with it. And I just want to say that if you missed out on this challenge, which was the second one, or the first one, you can do them at any time and still send them to me, and I'll feature them in a future Creative Challenge video. So that's never a problem. So don't think you missed the boat. I'd still like to help you out and review your designs and give you feedback. So make sure to send those in. If you do this one, for example, maybe you do it this summer when you have more time. That's fine. Don't worry about that. I do want people to submit stuff as I'm producing it, but not everybody has the time to do that. So I totally understand that. So in this movie, I want to take you through what I created for the sticker challenge design. And then after that, we'll take a look at what you, the audience, created. And I think this is going to be fun. So let's get started. The sticker designs you see here, just some of them I've created over the years. And it's always easy to create personal projects when you're doing stuff that you just naturally like. I think tigers are cool. I think a mutant tiger is even cooler. I like tiki stuff. I definitely like sci-fi, grew up on Star Wars, so of course Tusken Raider design. This one is just a saying I came up with and it kind of made me laugh, so I created a sticker out of it. The bottom left is part of my modern culture set that I did for this goes back 2021. For every day of the whole year, I did a design, did 374, did some stickers with those. This one, my favorite one, is called Takeout. And then the one that, the artwork that started that whole art series was this kind of pyramid design up here that I did for an exploratory on a client's logo. They ended up going in a different direction, but I liked the process of that I decided to utilize that process for an entire year. And actually what we're going to be creating today, I'm going to be utilizing that same methodology, not as stringent as the set I created for modern culture, but nonetheless based off of strokes. So of course my process starts with drawing. These are thumbnail sketches that I've had in my my loose folder of just doodles I've done over the years. And I always wanted to come back and visit these. And I like the flying tiger idea, kind of a badge idea, but I didn't want to do that. Right now I'm watching the series on Hulu called Shogun. Now my parents watched the original series when I was growing up and I thought it was boring. Well, they've remade it and it's unbelievably cool. I love samurai culture. I love that time period and the ornamentation. So as I'm moving forward to design a sticker utilizing a samurai in it, I want to look at real world reference. It doesn't matter if you're doing something iconic or it's more stylized or maybe you're going to do it a little more realistic. You want to look at real world reference to look at what makes a samurai helmet distinctly read as a samurai helmet. And there's characteristics, whether you're dealing with the theme of a samurai or maybe you have a theme that's an animal. Looking at real world reference will help you simplify those characteristics into forms and shapes you can build in vector art. So it's important to use reference. Every artist throughout history has used reference, and so should you. So let's take a look at how I drew it out. This is my crude rough sketch. This is a lot bigger on the screen than it was in real life. It was about maybe 1.5 inches tall, and I only drew half of it. This is bringing it into Photoshop, reflecting it just to make sure my proportions are looking good. And on this one, I thought the eyes were a little too close, so I'm going to adjust that as I redraw it. But it's a good way to test something out before you just directly move forward and start building vector art. If it feels too squashed, then you know you need to widen it, so on and so forth. So I went ahead and did some more symmetric drawing on this more precisely. And when I say precisely, I'm really taking my time to make a clear delineated line, because this is going to work as a roadmap to build my vector art. And I'm either using a very sharp 2B pencil, usually a monobrand pencil, or a mechanical pencil to draw at this stage. As I drew this, I thought of the ornament on their helmet, and it just popped into my head, oh, I should do a pen tool. That'd be cool. And so that's what I did here. And then the more I looked at it, the more I thought that pen tool needs to be bigger. So I made it a little more prominent so it's going to stand out a little better. And of course, took this in, scanned it on my flatbed scanner, took it into Photoshop, reflect it, and this becomes the refined sketch we can use to guide our vector building efforts. This is where I'll just set it to 15, 20%, something like that, and go ahead and lock the layer. And the first thing I like to do is figure out simple shapes and forms so I can use the ellipse tool or the square tool to build those without having to always go to the pen tool. And that's what I'm going to do here. You can see all of these are elliptical shapes. All of these were created using the ellipse tool. So the ellipse tool is a great way to build. You can use the shape building tool, like if we go ahead and select these. One is the perimeter of the helmet of the samurai and the bottom edge of the helmet, and we can just select both of these. We can go up to the shape building tool here. It's this one, and then we can just drag through these like that to get the shape we need. And we can do all the rest of our building the exact same way. So if I zoom in here, you can see I have these perimeter shapes which kind of capture the profile form of the rope that they use to tie at the bottom. Well, those are just two elliptical kind of egg shapes to make that. And I didn't want it the exact same weight at the bottom as the top, so it tapers a little as it gets down here to a final thickness. But again, this is where we can just go ahead and select these three shapes, the inner two ovals, the shape of the helmet, and then I can go back to the shape tool, and then I can just hold the Option key down and get rid of the parts I don't want. I don't want these. This line doesn't need to be in here. We'll go over here, get rid of that. I'll go ahead and we'll keep that, and then I'll come up here, and I don't need this up here or this up here. And it's just a really simple way to simplify building when you're working in strokes. Now, the top of his helmet is round, but the bottom isn't. So this is where I would go. You could use the corner widget if you wanted to do, well, actually, you couldn't use the corner widget because it's a circle and it doesn't recognize, it won't let you take a circle and bring it back to a square. So in this case, you'd have to start with the square if you don't have a plugin. Now, I have a plugin. I use both, actually, but I have a plugin. So on this, I'm just going to create this. Then I can go back in, select the scissor tool. This is where I would just cut these because I don't need these down below like that. And I drag these up until they snap onto the path. Now, I mentioned snapping, so I'm just going to mention it in this video. I haven't fully confirmed this yet, but I got an email last week from an Adobe engineer, and supposedly after 11 years, they finally fixed the snapping bug. And I'm not sure yet because I don't use 2024 every day. I only use it when I record my movies. You can see it up here, 2024. But so far, it seems like it is working. So if that's the case, that's awesome. Just too bad it took them over a decade to fix it. So I'm going to select the helmet again, select the shape building tool, hold Option key down, and get rid of those lines I don't want. Now, one thing with this style as I'm working on that I really pay attention to is how shapes interact with one another. So I want this helmet to come down and hit right where the line of the rope comes up here and the visor. So they all intersect, both left and right at that point. I also pay attention to that when it relates to one shape flowing into another shape. So I have these elements on his cheek, But notice how I created and distorted this ellipse tool so it sweeps through to create the shape of the cheek on his right cheek. But it also will create the line that goes through this rope. And I'll repeat that pattern kind of in the rope to make it look like a rope. So those are the things I pay attention to a lot, but the shape building tool is awesome. We'll cover that some more here. Let's go ahead and turn this on. This is the clean build of all those shapes here, and you can see how all of that's working. Now, of course, this is a symmetric design, so if I create these elements on the left, I can just clone them, Command-C, Command-F for the duplicate key on the contextual menu. Then I go over here, select reflect, select a central anchor point. Make sure you have smart guides turned on, which is Command U to turn it on. So when you hover over an anchor, it tells you, and then you can reflect it over. So as I build something that's on the left and it needs to be on the right, I'll reflect it like that. And that's the process I'm going to use to create all this art. So the shape building tool, again, is going to come into play down here where we have all these elements, but we don't need them to all overlap. We want this knot to look and appear as if it's on front. So I would just select the two knot shapes like this, select the the inner shape of the rope, select outer shape of the rope, then go to the shape building tool, and then I can hover over these areas with the Option key held down and just, oops, let's make sure we have the right shape selected. Okay, I do. Let's go to the shape building tool and we'll hold Option down to get, oh, I did it again. Get that guy. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, you know what? Let's play it safe. Let's go like this. Make sure it's on top. Let's check. Okay, it is. So I'll select this. Select that. Go to the shape building tool. Hold Option down. Then we'll select this one. Hold Option down with the shape building tool. I did it again. Select. Shape building tool, holding Option down. Wow, that's really interesting. I've never had this much trouble with the shape building tool. I don't know why it's doing that. There's one person that watches these videos, and she usually emails me after, oh, the reason why I did that because of this. So if you know why this is happening, because before I never ran into this. If I just hold Option down, it's highlighting just that segment. Okay, maybe it's just I wasn't zoomed in enough. So I wasn't clicking the right area. I don't know. So we can go in here. Let's go and select this. Get rid of that. I think it's just that I wasn't zoomed in, I guess, like that. So all we're doing is we're just getting rid of the content that we don't want to overlap, like this line here. Go down here, select that, select this. And then we can get rid of this. Oh, there it goes again. Then again, normally I'm not talking as I'm doing this. Okay. Select the shape building tool. It highlights that one. Maybe I'm just trying to go too fast. Okay, we'll do these last two. Get rid of that. Get rid. Of course, it's only happening when I'm recording it. When I originally built this art, I did not run into any of this. Maybe when they fixed the snapping bug, they introduced a new bug. I'm not sure why this is doing this. I'm going to bring this to the front, select this. So this brings up a point. You know those reels you see on Instagram or TikTok? I don't spend time on TikTok, but I see them on Instagram. And they show how quick things are. Well, you know, it's not always that quick, obviously. And in this case, sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. I just did exactly what I did before, but it just wanted to say, hey, you're recording a video. I know it, so I'm going to screw with you. Okay, so shouldn't have taken that long. Maybe it's because I'm trying to talk as I'm doing it. Normally I'm not when I'm building my own art and projects, but that's how I'd use the shape building tool. These kind of fin shapes on the side, that's easy. Once again, just think in shapes. So like on this one here, if I go to the dynamic corners tool, all this is just a rectangle. Now I didn't use it to create the original shape. I'll go back. I just used the corner widget to put the round on that on the rectangle, and then I made a copy, slid it down, made it a little larger because this one, if I fill it, is sitting on top, and that way I can just go minus front. It's easy to do shape building. Then I can select the helmet, and hopefully the shape building tool will behave, and I can just hold Option down and get rid of that. So that's how I'd build that. So once I build something on one side, I can clone it, go to Reflect tool, find a central anchor point, and reflect it over. So this is the process I use. I also use shape blending. So I have these lines in here, and even though my drawing wasn't perfect, meaning in my drawing, I had this fin type shape. And by the way, I don't know what they call it. I'm calling it a fin. But notice it ends here. My drawing, it was here. So I had this line going to approximately where this comes. Again, I'm making all of those converge in the same area. So I'm going to take these two shapes. And if you go Option Command B, it'll do a shape blend. If we go to the blending tool over here, double click it. And this is one where I wish they made this so it wasn't 2-3 clicks. You have to click in it, pop up, then you go into here and you have to go to steps. All of this should show up here in the control panel. It should, if you just do a shape blend and you have it selected, why couldn't it just show it up here and you can just do it really quickly? Why does it have to be a pop-up window? That's like version 1 kind of interface, in my opinion. Those are the things they need to fix in Illustrator. So we're going to hit it for 2, click OK. That's fine. You have to expand it. This is one of the things that confused me when I switched to Illustrator. I go, what does that mean, expand? It just means you want to get rid of the effect because an effect is doing this. So we'll expand it. That removes all the effect. Click OK. You might have to ungroup it, but this is how you will create this type of content. We don't need the one down here. We just need these 3. And then I can select this line, select the helmet shape, select these shapes, and I can go to the shape building tool. And when it's like this, I can just drag through those. That's easy. And I can drag through these like that. And then it'll leave copies over here. You just select them, get rid of them. And the same thing on this. If you don't remember that keyboard shortcut, and I did a bunch of blending things for one of the courses I did on LinkedIn Learning, so it's drilled into my head now. Option Command B, but if you just select these 2 paths here on the fin type shape, once again, I don't know if that's what they call it. You know, there's also somebody else out there who watches these movies, and they're the ones that always email me and say, those are called this. So if you can figure it out, let me know, because I would like to know. I just call them fins because I've never heard what they were called. If you go to the shape building tool, just select it. And if you click on one anchor point, we'll click on this one and the associated one and the other one, click on this one, it'll automatically do the blend. Still, you have to click into the tool though, and then pull down, select specified steps. And in this case, we want the same steps too. Click OK, and you get that kind of blend as well. You have to expand it again. So we'll go ahead and expand it. And we'll go ahead and ungroup it. We don't need the one on each end like that. And you can see it's extending past the edge of the helmet. So we'd have to select that. And this is where you'll probably want to zoom in to do this kind of work. Select the anchor or the shape building tool and just hold Option down and drag through the part you don't want, and it will trim it where it should be. And of course, as we move along, we can select the shapes we added, which are these interior lines, make a copy of it, Command-C, Command-F, use the reflect tool, find a central anchor point, and reflect it over to the other side as we keep moving forward to do that. Now, let's go ahead and work on his eyes and nose. So I'll turn this on. We have his eyes there. Those were easy elliptical shapes I just trimmed. But on his nose, I wouldn't want to try to build this with the pen tool because you're never going to get that nose perfect. And notice, I wanted this to snap to the edge of this and the edge of this. How'd I do that? Well, I cheated and used a plugin. I created this elliptical shape. So all I'll do is let's do this. Let's clone this. And let's reflect this over here, okay? But let's say I just created it, I just rotated it at this angle. Once I have it, I can use Collider Scribe, I think is what they call it. And I use the snap to collision. Collision means when one vector shape hits another vector shape, that's what it snaps to. So I'm going to select that. And with this Collider Scribe selected on this object, I'll move it over and notice you'll snap and snap, boom. If you don't have a plugin to do that, you're going to have to eyeball it, and it's going to be a lot of more time. You'll spend a good 2 minutes to try to get that dead on. And you have to zoom in, turn on, you'd have to do this. You'd have to zoom in and go to keyline view and say, okay, is that exact? And then you'd have to scroll down, look at the other one. And there's no precise way of doing it. And so that's why I use plugins. I just wanted to show you that. I wasn't planning on showing you that, but that's one of those plugins that Astute Graphics makes that I don't use it every day, but when I need it, it saves me so much time. But think in shapes. So this is just elliptical shape. This is just a rectangle. I'll go ahead and just select these anchors here. Make sure that we have our show corner widget on. So we get that. I turn that off at times. We'll round it like that. So we've made the negative part for the nose. This is super easy. It's just straight lines with this curve. Actually, it was a rectangle, but then when I originally created this elliptical shape for the eye, I offset it and then trimmed it to get this curve, this shape. So I'll select that, select the nostril, and I'll go unite with the Pathfinder. This shape is sitting on top of the other one. I'll fill it so you can see that. And I'll select this, and I'll just go minus front. So now we have a perfect nose. And one thing I will point out is when you use the corner widget and you do this kind of round, technically this will always be a piggybacking anchor. It'll be a redundant anchor. If I pull this out, notice there's two there instead of one. There's really no getting around that. But if I select this and I go to the Path Scribe, which is an Astute plugin, it says, hey, you got a redundant anchor point. It gives you this warning. I can just click this. So right now, this has 12 points in it. I can click it. It gets rid of that redundant anchor. So now it's just one anchor. Another reason why I use plugins. It just fixes stuff that Adobe natively kind of causes problems with. It should be smart enough to know you don't need a piggybacking anchor there. That's the part that I wish they would pay more attention, that kind of stuff. So why did I move this over? Because I'm going to reflect this shape now. I'll make a copy of it, Command-C, Command-F, go to the reflect tool, find a central anchor point, and I'll reflect it over, select both of these, and I'll go unite. That just means they're overlapping. Sometimes when you have a dead straight line and you reflect it, it wants to keep it there for whatever reason. So once we have that, I can select this and I can use the corner widget to add the nice round to the bottom of his nose. We'll take the bottom edge of the visor on the helmet, select the top of his nose, and I can go to the shape building tool, hold Option down and get rid of that to trim it. So that's how I would go about building all the content that works into this. Let's go ahead and just turn on our base vector art here. We can turn off our sketch. This is all the base vectors, and I'm working with primarily strokes only. There are 4 shapes in this that are going to be, and this goes back to that photograph of the mask in my reference where they had the dots kind of up by the forehead, and that gave me the idea because some of these samurai things have a lot of detail. I wanted to allude to that, but not like overdo it. And so these are all I'm going to do. Is these are the only fills in this design. So let's go ahead and just fill these black, no outline like this. Everything else is going to be outline. So this is where, let's go ahead and do this. I'll take these and I'll group them. I'll bring them to the front. By the way, I have keyboard shortcuts for bring to front, which is F5. That way I don't have to group it, go up here, go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. I just hit F5. Keyboard shortcuts, saves a lot of time. So I'll select all of them, deselect the ones that are the fill. All of these, I can't remember what the stroke is, 0.5 maybe? 0.75. Okay, we just need to determine the weight of the stroke that we're going to set. So I'm going to go ahead and color these black. Right now it's 0.75. And if you want to see this without the anchors, you can go Command H. So it's still selected. That's why I tend to keep that on, because I forget they're actually selected. So don't forget they're selected. And then you can just see what it's going to look like without the encumbrance of all the anchor handles and paths showing up. So I think that looks good. That's 4 points, and we have a round corner. That's what we want, because where it comes to a dagger sharp point, we want that to make a nice little round, like here on the fin or at the ornate element on the top of his helmet. So that'll work. I'm going to turn on the anchors again. And it's at this point that I want to set up the art so I can expand these paths into actual shapes, because you don't want to keep it live strokes. You're just asking for problems. And to better explain this, I've colorized them because this is where I'll figure out where the potential problems could be. And I think the potential problems, if I just expand everything as is and unite everything as is with Pathfinder, we're going to have redundant points in a lot of places. So I want to prevent that. So I'm going to take this shape and take this shape, and I'm going to just expand these path, outline, stroke. So we turn those into shapes. You can see this one's in the front. So we'll go ahead and take these and we'll bring these forward. And then I'm going to zoom in, because all I'm doing is I'm taking a rectangle shape and I'm going to go ahead and trim this one like that. So as it comes down like it does here, it would add an extra anchor point right there, because that's where it hits the other shape. I'm kind of editing it before I unite everything to help avoid those kind of problematic areas that are going to add extra anchors. So I go in and do that. Other areas would be right here in the nose where these two, this would add extra anchor points in this area. So I think on this one, I'll go ahead, and the same thing where the eyes meet the nose as well. So let's see, I'll take this one. We'll take those, and I'll go here. I'll go path. I'll go outline, stroke. Take that, something like that. Select that, edit the bottom of that one, edit the bottom of that one. So it overlaps enough that it'll fuse together, but notice this one's going to run into the same thing. So it's on this one. I'll go ahead and outline it. We'll have to do that on the cheeks. On these ones, we'll outline that. And then again, I'll just go in on this one. Sometimes if it's not an exact 90 degrees, it's just easier to build the shape to edit it like that, so it doesn't touch that side. Then over here, we'll edit this one like that. I can select these two shapes, unite them, make sure they're a compound, select this, trim it so I know I'm not going to get an extra anchor there. And then on this one, because this is 90 degrees, we'll cheat. We'll just do this. We'll just make a circular shape. I'll use this one over here. Trim that. Oops, not that one. We want to do this one. And trim that. So neither of these will cause extra anchors on either of these shapes. So those are the things I pay attention to. Now, there might be other areas, but those are the only ones I'm going to focus on as an example here. All of these we can select. We don't need to select the fills. All of these are strokes, so we're just going to go to Object. We'll go to Path. We'll go to Outline Strokes. And then once we have all that, we select A, and we go Unite. And by the way, before I unite it, it's 668 points. There should be less once we unite it. So we'll unite it, and there's 608. So we got rid of 60 extra anchor points by doing this. But this is the process I use. It just reverts to whatever's the topmost colored shape. We'll just make this black again. But this is where I want to kind of break it apart. So I would go ahead and go ungroup, or I'm sorry, expand, that is. Compound release. Then, okay, we don't have to ungroup it. Deselect the outermost shape, the inner shapes, all of these. We can select white. We'll have to go back in and knock out these dots that are on the visor. But this is kind of how I want to set up my final art, where the background shape is just black and all these interior shapes are just independent. But again, like here, if I went ahead and colored this, copied it, let's go to Keyline View, select these three, and go Command B, paste behind. Like that. So all these here, we'll go ahead and unite them like this, because these will minus front out of that. So all these interior shapes of white, and this is how I'd isolate and color it. There's areas of this, once we expand it like this, we don't need, like the inside of the mouth. It creates all these awkward shapes. We don't need any of these. We can delete them because that's just going to be black like that. So that's how I would begin the process of constructing it to now move forward and coloring it. Now, the one thing I did between this stage and this stage is I just beefed up the outer line, because I always like having a beefier outer line and continuity with the interior lines. Not that I'm going to leave it this way. We're going to do some subtle rounding. And I'll show you what that is. It's easy to do with the corner widget. But before we do any of that, I want to show you why I do it. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you can see the dagger sharp teeth. Everything comes to a dagger sharp point when you work like this. That's fine. That's what I expect from vector art. But if you go in and do subtle roundings, look at what it looks like and how it improves the aesthetic of your design. This is without rounding. This is with subtle rounding. So I'm just going to toggle this off, without, with. Just notice how it just makes the art look so much more compelling by adding these little rounds. Now, this doesn't go quick, but don't skip it. This really pushes something over the top, because this is a visor, for example, on the helmet. So this would have some darker areas in here and here. I could have made it even more extreme, but I didn't want to go over the board. It's a simplified sticker, but the rounding really does help. So seriously, all you have to do, let's zoom in here. We'll do some with the corner widget. So you might go here and you might round that. That might be the biggest area that's kind of a shadow. Again, you go here, you can add this round in it. Even on the eyes, the visor, so it might be a little bigger here, and then this one over here, maybe it's getting a little more light, so not quite as big. You could even round it like that if you wanted to get that look here. So that's all subtle rounding is. It's just going through. Again, I'm not going to go through all that. I just wanted to really focus on it and help you understand that principle. So if you look at the detail, the crest or whatever they call this on the helmet, this kind of wave shape, look at how it goes over the helmet. That's not bad. It's expected because of the way we built it, but look how much better it looks with those rounds in it. It kind of reinforces that shadowing that's being cast on the helmet. Once again, this is iconic, but it's implying it, I guess you could say. So just wanted to cover that. Now, the total family for this is pretty straightforward. Black, red, gold, and gray. We're kind of going to take that aspect of the kabuki mask, and that's going to work on this. So the biggest red area, this whole design is just the face. So I'll select that and we'll color that. By the way, this is a process black I'm using here. Everything that's golden, kind of yellow color will be golden here. So I'll select these. We'll make those gold. His eyes are going to be the golden, and his chin and his cheek areas like that. That looks cool. And then for the helmet itself, it's going to be, I wanted it kind of a metallic color, but I didn't want it all the same color. These are further back. This is the inside part of the helmet, so it's darker. This is further back than the foreground, so it should be darker. So we're going to make those dark gray, and everything else this lighter gray, and of course white for his teeth. We'll just leave it as is. Now, before I color it, I always print out just the black and white base art. And I do that because I like working out my shading in a drawn format. So if I turn on my drawing, this is what I printed out and I drew on top of with a pencil, because it literally takes me maybe a minute to figure this out, rather than noodling around in Illustrator for 45 minutes. So it makes the process go faster to figure it out in analog. Once I do, I can select it. I can go ahead and go to opacity. I usually on these go about 40% so I can see my underlying drawing. I lock the layer, and then on a layer on top of it is where I start building out all my vector shapes just like the base art. And then selecting elements in the face, for example, selecting the shading shape that's in the face, and then using intersect on Pathfinder to isolate and create the final shapes, which make up the final shading. And just look at how much it comes to life. Flat art, not bad. With the shading in place, just over the top cool. So if I select this again, this is that principle where I've used a muted value, shading value. So if I click on the red, and I've covered this previously in movies, you can see the red here, but if I go into the color, this is the color break for that red. It's 194. Now, if I select the shading value that we're using with that color, we've cut the value in half from 100 to 50, from 94 to 47, and then we added black. So if you think like traditional pigment-based painting, this is how you would mix the color to do shading. You would mute it, and you would add more black, and that's what we do here. These shapes, we're actually multiplying, and then we're using our shading value for both the red and the gold and the grays. The same principle works on any color value you're working on, but that's how I handled that kind of detailing. Kind of fun. It's at this point that I decided I wanted to add a kanji symbol to it. And so I was thinking about it, I'm going, this is all about vector building. I like to say that you don't really draw in vector. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule. If you have Illustrator on the iPad, which should be called Illustrator Lite on the iPad, you can draw with the blob brush. Doesn't work that great, in my opinion. But you can do vector drawing on Fresco, Adobe Fresco on an iPad, and it works really good, in my opinion, better than Illustrator does, which to me makes no sense, but whatever. So I'm thinking vector building with a kanji character. So I went to this website and found and typed in create, and this is the kanji symbol that means make, build, or create. This is perfect. So that's what I decided to add to this design, and I added type with it. So this shows the typography that goes with my design, Vector Samurai. And then as I was looking at this, I'm going, oh, wait a minute, this is it. And then AI, it just happens to work out with Adobe Illustrator's type mark. And I go, okay, that's kind of a nice happy accident that I wasn't even thinking about. And then I thought, well, I'm going to add some ornament because samurai is kind of ornamental, and added this into it. And of course, the die cut for my sticker is going to be like this. These stickers will show up eventually. And everybody that submitted their design that we're going to review in just a few minutes will get one of these stickers from me mailed to you for being part of the production of this movie, which I really do appreciate it. We're going to cover that shortly, but the best part of creating artwork like this, yes, you can do stickers. Stickers are always awesome, but you can repurpose digital art like this so easily. This works on a light-colored background. Here's a light-colored photographic background. It looks cool in this context. Also works great on a colored dark background. You could do, I love t-shirts that are on black and dark to medium colors, and this would work in a one color format as well. So very flexible style. Hope you enjoyed this process, but now we're going to review the designs that you created and you submitted, and this is where I love to see what other people create. So the first one up, this one was created, I don't know the real world name. He goes by the Cloud Artist, so that's fine. He has this little logo, this little 8-bit kind of pixelated looking logo of a cloud. So that's cool. That's his brand name, the Cloud Artist. And this kind of looks like the super mushroom from Mario, but kind of a possessed super mushroom, I guess. But this is a great sticker. It's a cool sticker, simple, but done really, really well. So I love that one. Let's take a look at another one. And I'm going to try to pronounce your name right. So let's double click on this. It's Neboja Nask or Neboja Nask. I'm going to go with that. I'm probably slaughtering it. If so, I apologize. But he did this really cool organic design utilizing really nice typography with a really cool kind of organic field skull. He told me this was called Puka Syrup. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Some of you might know what that means. Now, when you create a sticker like this, by the way, I want one of these stickers. So if you want to send me one, that'd be great. You'll be getting a sticker, so you can just use the address that'll be on that envelope that I sent you. Now, if you're developing a sticker and you want to create the profile that you're going to use to die cut this out, just make a copy of the exterior shape, this one. And once you make a copy of that, and I already did that here, I'm kind of pre-baking like a pre-bake show. Once you have that exterior shape, all you have to do is go to Object. You can go down to Path, and you can go to Offset Path. You can do this in the Properties panel if you want to as well. Click it. It'll open up the same controls here. You can off-put this as much as you want. So maybe you want to go 10. Maybe you want it to be a little more. You go 12, and we can select round. So when it gets to awkward corners, it just makes it look more elegant, and click OK. This is how you would create the die cut line work. So when you send it to a vendor, they can use that to create the die cut around it. It's not hard, super easy to do, but this design was awesome. I like this design a lot. The next one up is, let's double click on his name here, Kenneth Humphreys. And so what I'm going to do is just turn on these two layers, and we'll take a look. He didn't name this one, so I named it whenever they don't give me a name. I'm calling this Cycloptic Slice. This was really interesting timing because he doesn't know me. I don't really know him. I didn't really show anything, but at the time I was working on a pizza monster designed for a client. They ultimately said, that's too scary. So I went more cute with it for him, and then they liked it. But I like this. I think this idea is great. And I don't have his colors turned on because I want to walk through the process he used to make a few points. And the first point I want to make here is this is what he's calling his line work. And that's fine. But when you're creating your sticker, all you really need is the base art like this. So if you isolated this shape all the way around, that's all I did. And then I removed all the interior shapes. Because he has his flats, which I like that name that you use, flats. That's a good way to describe it. And I turn that on. He had all of those on like this. So if I turn off his line work, this is what it looks like. But he really doesn't need, or I should say, Ken, you really don't need to have all of these interior shapes. All you need to have is this, because with the flats turned on, you can see you get the exact same look from left to right. And this is just the way I set it up. How I would set it up, it'll make it easier. And this just adds more kind of, if I select all of these anchors, actually the background and these anchors, it's 48, 43. If I select all these, you can see it's almost 10,000. So it just simplifies it. So I just make sure on you're calling it line work, I just made sure your base art shape doesn't need all those interior shapes. I just wanted to point that out. Now, he did a good job of building the shadow detail on this. I think that adds a lot to it. And I'm going to turn on this shadow effect over here, because when I clicked on your shadows, and I'm going, well, what I wanted to see what blend mode you use and what percentage. I'm going, well, there's no blend mode. And it's 100%, but it's obviously not. It's like, and then I'm like, it took me about a minute to figure out, oh, if we go to appearance, you can see he has blend modes applied to the layer. This isn't wrong. It's just probably something you'd want to get in the habit of not using in this type of context, and I'll show you why. If we double click into contents, you can see his this blend load, this layer effect is multiply and 25%, which aligns with the look and feel he has. Once again, this isn't wrong. It's just when you're creating sticker art and you're going to send it to a vendor, you would want to select everything, and you'd want to go group, Command G. Now it's going to default your highest layer. Because your layer was the shadow layer, everything's going to take on those attributes of the effect applied to that layer. So I would suggest, instead of doing that, if I click on your shading here that I set up, it's not a layer effect, it's just applied to the object itself. And when I select your shading detail here, I also noticed it's a group. And as soon as you ungroup it, you lose that effect. Or if you add to it, you might lose that effect as well. And it's always best to apply effects to an object itself. It makes it easier. And just to give you an example, if I go ahead and take the ellipse tool here and I create a pepperoni, we'll color it your color here. And if I take this and I just move it to your shadow layer, again, it's going to change the color. So I just wanted to point that out, because if you set it up this way and you select everything and go group, you're not going to run into that problem. It'll just group everything together and it makes life easier. And of course, your die cut is fine. The last comment I'll make on your pizza design. Now, this is a standard 8.5 by 11 horizontal sheet that I have here in my document. So these are a lot larger than what, assuming you're not going to create a 5-inch slice sticker design, that'd be really expensive. Let's say you size this down so it's 3 inches tall by a little, I don't know, maybe 2 inches wide. I think your line work's going to get a little too thin, so I'd make sure you beef that up. And one thing I forgot to show you is I did that just on the outside here, and I think that really improves the readability, and I think it would just improve the design overall just to have your line work on the interior not so thin, because as you go smaller, that's going to pinch and be a lot harder to read. So other than that, I like the design. I think it's fun. Let's jump to the next one. This is Irina Moraru. I hope I pronounced that right. I think this is awesome. The Squat Squad, so a sticker for those who like doing squats and workout. Her die cut, the way she set it up is great. So if she wants blue on the perimeter edge, then you bleed it out past your die cut. That's smart. That's the way to do it. And if we zoom in on here, I like these halftone patterns she's using with the dots. I thought that was a great way to handle detailing without getting overly complicated. And I'll point out that she did not use Adobe Illustrator to create this. She used Affinity Designer. I've never used Affinity Designer to actually do any design, but you can't argue with the results. It does a great job. So it's a good option for those who don't need to have a Creative Cloud account. Now, the way I teach vector artwork, it's kind of application agnostic. Yes, I cover everything in Illustrator, but vector technology isn't owned by Adobe Illustrator. It's open source. Now, they may come up with proprietary things they can do with it, like text to vector AI, which is a joke. But other than that, anybody can create a vector app. And one of the best ones outside of the Creative Cloud ecosystem is Affinity Designer. So if you want to create impeccable vector art like Irina did, then make sure to check that out. She also showed another version that has some scrapes on it like this, and I think that looks good as well, and applied to a water bottle. So she went over the top. Good job. Love that design. Came out good. Let's take a look at David's work. Now, David, I'm probably going to slaughter your last name. I'm going to give it a try. David Diacadimitriou. How's that for... Oh, that was bad. I don't... I'll just call you David D. How's that? That's a lot easier. Now, I tried to open up your PDF in Illustrator, and it kind of messed up all the nice effects you have going on. So instead, I just rasterized it at a high resolution so it wouldn't degrade the artwork. And I think these stickers are cool. I actually have a whole wall of toy robots in my office. Many of them look like this. This one reminded me of Robbie the Robot, and these are your standard kind of retro-looking robots. I think those are cool. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe that's like the helmet for Artificial Intelligence Man or something. A lot of fun. So these would make great stickers. So that really well done on that. I like all the detail, shading, done really well. And then let's take a look at a couple more. These are from Daryl Gardner designed these. I thought these were cool. Memento Mori. It's a great saying, and this is a beautiful design. I like the shape of it. I think it's very unique. So that's really good. And I would just consider I was curious how you would handle the die cut. If it was me, I would handle it like this, where I use the same dimension that you have on the thickness of the black, but the edge of the sticker would be this, and this color would be the gold color, because I really like the gold enveloping the sticker design. So really cool sticker. I like the simplistic nature of the iconography and that it's not perfectly symmetric. That's kind of good. He did another take on this where he simplified it even more into a sticker where the trim or die cut of the sticker would be this perimeter. The only thing on this that I'd change, by the way, I like this font. I meant to ask you what font that is because it's cool looking. The only thing I'd change on this is I might go in and add 2 rounds like that on the sticker design. That's the only thing I'd change instead of coming to a perfect 90-degree square on the bottom. So anyway, I thought all of you did a great job, and I'll be following up with everybody I featured in this video and getting your address so I can send you a Vector Samurai sticker you can have. So if you missed out once again on the first 2 challenges, we'll have a new one coming out really soon. So make sure to subscribe to PPLLUV Process on YouTube, because then you'll be notified when that comes out and it'll give you all the information on the new challenge. The new challenge is going to be a fun one. I think you'll enjoy it. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and you won't miss it and you'll be on schedule. I try to give you a good period of time to work out these challenges. It's not like 5 days. It's almost a month to do it, and that way you can work on it on your own time and it doesn't become stressful. I want you to have fun with these and improve your skills. YouTube keeps telling me channel authors like myself that a simple like or share or subscribing to this channel all helps me get more traffic. I don't know. I don't really know much about SEO when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if you have never done any of those things, I'd appreciate it if you would. That would help me a whole lot. And of course, a big thank you to those who have become members and support my creative efforts each month. I really do appreciate it a lot. And you get to see behind the scenes, not just of what I create for this channel, but when I'm working on real world client projects and I show you projects before anybody ever sees them. So if you want to get in on that, you can become a member and take part in it. Until next time, thank you for watching PPLLUV Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you to improve your own creative process.